Okay.
Hey, this is Andrew here and Pedro at Ural Portland. This is a brand new Ural Gear Up, and we're going to talk in this video a little bit about adjusting a parking brake. This is something a lot of customers ask us about, and it's also something that we see needs adjustment a lot when people come in for services. And sometimes when people do the adjustment, you know, best efforts, of course, but it doesn't always come out perfect. So we're going to give you kind of a good primer on what to do here with the parking brake and how to adjust it properly. So the first thing we wanted to cover is riding with the parking brake on. After 2014, the design of the parking brake changed. It used to be on the side of the bike, and it was easy to forget about it and just ride away with it on. Not a great thing. And so the parking brake was moved up to the handlebars here on the left side. Now the design of this is meant that when you turn on the parking brake, when you set it to the on position, it's blocking out all your controls. That should be a reminder to you, if I can't easily get to my turn signal, my horn, or my high beams, something is wrong. If you've got to reach around it, obviously something's blocking the way, right? This was supposed to be a physical block to keep you from doing that. But we see it a lot. People still ride with their parking brake on. So turn that thing off. If you're reaching for anything behind a metal physical obstacle, your parking brake is on.
So the tools you're going to need are a ratchet and a 16 millimeter socket for the nut right here. So to adjust it, you're gonna turn this nut, of course, loosey-goosey counterclockwise. Take it off. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you turn it in, you're actually feeling it come to a complete stop and then backing it out. You want to make sure you do back it out at least a 1/16 of an inch or probably about a couple splines in order for that to be like not contacting the disc, to where you can fit this guy back onto that spline shaft right there. You might have to adjust it just a little bit either back or forward, but a lot of times what you'll notice is that when you go to adjust this and you take this off, you'll have a lot of play and it'll turn in quite a bit, and that's what we're trying to take out, is some of that slack in there, some of that space. And so yeah, turn it counterclockwise about a 1/16 of an inch and fit that back onto the splines, and it should just slide right back onto the splines, and then tighten up your nut. The reason why you want to properly adjust this and have some space in there or some slack in that is if it's contacting the disc, it will over time. You won't feel it right away, but you'll be going down the road maybe a mile or two, and this rear tire will lock up on you, which is pretty scary if you're on the freeway or going any speed. This rear tire will just start to like drag on you. One of the symptoms of that too is like you're coming out of a stop and the bike just doesn't seem to want to like accelerate. It's probably because your rear wheel is locking up. So just keep an eye on that brake. If you feel something weird where you're trying to take off and it's not wanting to go in first gear and it's feeling like it's resisting somehow, it's probably because your rear brake is locked up or is starting to lock up. So now that I have the slack taken out at the bottom over here on the caliper, this still has a little bit of play in here, and it's kind of annoying when you're going down the road and this thing's like jiggling around on you. So what you want to do is you can make a little micro adjustments here on the top over here, and also there's a little adjuster down here on the cable that you can take some of the slack out of. But this is actually the easier spot to do it at. So what you need is a 15 millimeter wrench to undo the lock nut right here. Just back it off, and then you can either turn it with your hand, or if it's kind of stuck in there, you can use just a little pair of pliers. It's nice when they have the little teeth like that. You can kind of grab onto it and back it out, and you're going to turn that clockwise to take out the slack. And what you want to make sure that you do is that you'll feel that right there, that you're not pulling a lot of tension on this cable and adding more tension to the adjustment down at the caliper. You just want to be able to take out a little bit of that slack so it's not wiggling around on you, and that's pretty close right there. So you want to make sure that when you're adjusting this, that you don't have it when you go to lock this back down, this nut right here, that you don't have an open slot here lined up so that the cable will actually want to kind of come out of there, and it'll catch on the bracket and cause a burr on the cable and actually make it, get a cut cable right there. When you get down to like getting the play out of there and you want to tighten it back, just make sure that slot is turned away from that opening in that slot of the bracket right there. You just go ahead and lock it down with the 15 millimeter wrench. You just snug it up. You don't want to crank on that because the metal on that adjusting screw right here is pretty soft, and it'll chew up the threads really easy. So you just want to snug it up, and then that's it. And so now you don't have this jiggling down the road with a bunch of play in there, and you got a good amount of push on the bike, push it back and forward, make sure it's not moving. That's properly adjusted. So even with a properly adjusted parking brake, you want to make sure that you're not depending on this thing if you're on a hill or on a slope or something. You always want to put it in gear, preferably in first gear, when you're on a hill or an incline and with the parking brake on. But never trust this parking brake solely on its own. It should be used in conjunction with it being in gear to prevent it from wanting to move on you. Especially over time, this cable will stretch out and it eventually will need to be recalibrated and adjusted down at the caliper. So this is Pedro here at Ural Portland. Thanks for watching. Until next time.